From the ancient histories of India, which date back more than 5,000 years, we learn of Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental pastimes in the holy city of Vrindavan. At the time, the ruthless tyrant Kamsa was desirous of conquering the world. When the malicious king heard that his sister's son would kill him, he was ready to behead her. But her husband Vasudeva managed to pacify the sinful king and save her life. Devaki and her husband Vasudeva, both great devotees of the Lord, wanted the Lord to be their son. To fulfill their pure desire, Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, appeared before them in his majestic four-armed form. Then, at his parents' request, the Lord appeared as an ordinary child. To protect his transcendental son Krishna from Kamsa's wrath, Vasudeva carried the Lord across the river Yamuna to the home of Nanda Maharaj in the village of Vrindavan. Overjoyed at Krishna's presence, the village people held a great celebration. They never thought to themselves, Krishna is actually the Supreme Lord. He was their beautiful child, and all of them loved him without reservation. As Krishna grew up, Vrindavan saw many of his most extraordinary pastimes. Once, Kamsa sent a mystic whirlwind yogi to kidnap him. But Krishna choked the yogi and caused his death. Though he looked just like an ordinary child, the Supreme Lord could do anything. The cowherd boys knew nothing but Krishna. Each day, all of them would go to the forest with the cows and enjoy one another's company. Everyone in Vrindavan was pleased just by Krishna and Balaram's presence there. And to this day, the land of Vrindavan is Krishna's transcendental home. Pilgrims bathe in the sanctified waters of the Yamuna River, which borders Vrindavan on 3 sides. This branch of the Ganges is considered the holiest of all holy rivers because it once washed Krishna's transcendental body. Vrindavan consists of 64 square miles of flat, fertile land dotted with small villages. This is the area that Krishna and his cows and friends traverse daily. Through the ages, millions of Krishna's devotees have worshipped this sacred land. Vrindavan's oldest temple, Madan Mohan, was built in the 16th century. It overlooks the 6-mile path that encompasses the town. Vrindavan is located 90 miles southeast of Delhi, and all its 30,000 residents are devotees of Krishna. In the bustling markets, merchants sell their goods. Farm fresh produce. Milk and grain sweets. Including hot jalebis made on the spot. Costly silks, saris, and shawls. And everything necessary to worship Krishna. Krishna's devotees feel his presence in Vrindavan, and for them, there is no place more sacred. Krishna is especially remembered in his temples, and no less than 5,000 temples decorate Vrindavan's streets and lanes. Within many of the temples, great artists have memorialized Krishna's pastimes through marble carvings and paintings. Here we see Krishna easily lifting Govardhan Hill and holding it up like a giant umbrella to protect the townspeople from a torrential rain. One new temple of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness attracts people from both India and abroad. Gradually, Vrindavan is becoming world famous, and this center welcomes people of all nationalities. Here, one can learn the science of devotional service to Krishna. Modern accommodations are provided in the International Guest House. In the classic tradition, devotees worship Krishna and his elder brother Balaram. By his personal example, Krishna taught that the ideal life is a simple one. And in much of Vrindavan, life goes on this way. The people fulfill their needs not with complex technology, but with the land's natural gifts. using the bull to produce grains and the cow to deliver milk, the people of Vrindavan live a natural and healthy life, absorbing their minds in the pastimes Krishna performed here 50 centuries ago. Each day, the cows wander to one of Vrindavan's 12 forests. Years ago, Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends would bring their cows to these same forests for peaceful grazing. Who would think that God spends his time in such a simple way? Krishna's activities 5,000 years ago were almost lost to memory until Lord Krishna himself returned to Vrindavan only 500 years ago, this time disguised as a great devotee, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Absorbed in ecstatic love, Lord Chaitanya wandered through Vrindavan's forests and recalled Krishna's pastimes. Everywhere he looked, he remembered Krishna. Lord Chaitanya spotted the Yamuna River. Many years before, Vasudeva had carried Krishna across this river to the home of Nanda Maharaj in Nandagram, and it was here that Krishna grew up. Lord Chaitanya also saw Gokul, where Mother Yashoda bound child Krishna to a grinding mortar after the Lord had stolen butter. And he saw Govardhan, the hill that supplied Krishna's cows with fresh water and soft grass. After taking his bath here at Govinda Kund, Lord Chaitanya danced ecstatically before the Krishna deity. Here at Chirgat, Krishna once teased the cowherd girls by climbing into a tree with their clothing. Lord Chaitanya worshipped this place as pilgrims do even today. Radha Kund, the most glorious of all holy places, was just a small pond until Lord Chaitanya rediscovered it. On these banks, Krishna danced with his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani. In the evenings beneath this tamarind tree, Lord Chaitanya felt Krishna's presence by quietly chanting his holy names. His footprints show where he sat and enjoyed the beauty of the Yamuna River. The holy sites in Vrindavan were re-established as places of worship in the 16th century by Lord Chaitanya's foremost disciples, the 6 Goswamis. In the courtyard of Radha Damodar Temple, the Goswamis sat together to study and discuss the science of Krishna consciousness. Their realizations filled volumes, and they established temples to house the deity of Krishna, the transcendental flute-playing cowherd boy of Vrindavan.
Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radhe. Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radhe. Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe. Sanataner Pran Dhanna hai. Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe. Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radhe. Jiv Goswami ra pran dhanna hai. Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radhe.
founder of this temple, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, desired a deity to worship. Krishna manifested himself in his transcendental form known as Radha Raman, and today the Lord is still being worshipped with great pomp.
Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radha.
For most of us, spiritual affairs occupy only a fraction of our time, if any. But devotees of the Lord try to detach themselves from material affairs and absorb their minds in spiritual life. And for those who are serious and sincere, Vrindavan is the ideal place. Thousands of pilgrims join the townspeople on festive holidays such as Govardhan Puja, when a feast like this one is offered to the Lord and then distributed. Rich or poor, everyone relishes this special food that has been offered to Krishna with love and devotion. There are many holidays throughout the year. This parade is held to celebrate the day when Krishna's eternal consort, Srimati Radharani, appeared. Devotees sometimes walk 32 miles to circumambulate the Vrindavan area. For them, Krishna is still in Vrindavan as his deity and his holy name.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna.
In Vrindavan, Krishna is the center of attention, and he is served by everyone. Whatever is done in Vrindavan is meant for Krishna's service.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Vrindavan is more than a place on the map. To fully appreciate it takes an attitude of humble study and inquiry. A feeling of harmony with nature and the universe. and a spirit of love and devotion for Krishna. The transcendental exchange between Krishna and his devotee is tangible and real, but for non-devotees, it remains a mystery. In ancient India's Vedic literatures, a great devotee prays, "I worship Krishna, the primeval Lord, whose figure of beauty is tinged with the hue of rain-filled clouds, and who always revels in pastimes of love. I worship Krishna, who lives eternally in Vrindavan, where all speech is song and all walking is dancing. Vrindavan, the supreme abode, is known only to a very few, but is within the reach of everyone."
Jerusalem, the renowned holy city of biblical times, and the site of Jesus Christ's last days on earth. For Christians and Jews, a memorial of some of the most significant people and events in their religious history, and therefore a place of pilgrimage. For Muslims, there is Mecca, famous as a religious center since the days of the Old Testament, and greatly magnified in importance by the birth of the prophet Muhammad, here in the 7th century after Christ. The most sacred of the Muslim holy cities, it draws millions of pilgrims every year. Well, we've all heard of Jerusalem and Mecca, and yet few Westerners know anything about this holy city, situated on the shores of the Bay of Bengal in India. It is called Jagannath Puri, and like Jerusalem and Mecca, it hosts millions of pilgrims every year. For thousands of years, Puri has been famous for its annual Rath Yatra, the world's oldest and largest religious festival. Each year, the deities of Jagannath, literally translated as Lord of the Universe, his brother Baladev, his sister Subhadra, come out of the temple for their once-a-year public appearance in a grand procession. Devotees from all over India throng in their millions to take darshan, or audience. For the world's 700 million Hindus, the ancient holy city of Puri is a spiritual landmark. Not only because of its festival or its beauty, or even because of its historic temples. Rather, like Mecca and Jerusalem, Jagannath Puri has achieved much of its present-day religious importance because of a great saintly person who once resided here. The year is 1511, and a young saint leaves his birthplace in Navadvip on the banks of the Ganges in Bengal and travels on foot with his closest associates toward Puri. Although still a young man whose golden effulgence, beauty and keen intellect had brought him fame in Bengal, at the age of 24 he has already accepted the austere life of a celibate sannyasi monk. His mission is to spread love of God throughout the world through the singing and glorifying of the names of God as recommended in the timeless Vedic scriptures. He is to become one of India's most renowned spiritual preceptors and leaders in a social and religious revolution. His name is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is to leave an everlasting imprint upon the history of Puri. From this place, Sri Chaitanya first sees the chakra, the disc of Vishnu atop the famous Jagannath temple of Puri, 6 miles away. Here a memorial was established. It houses Sri Chaitanya's footprints in marble. Sri Chaitanya immediately goes to the famous temple, which is thousands of years old. Inside are the sacred deities of Lord Jagannath, which have been revered since antiquity and are known to bestow special blessings on their worshippers. Upon seeing the deity, Sri Chaitanya is so overwhelmed with spiritual ecstasy that he loses external consciousness and faints. He is brought to this nearby house, the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the leading philosopher and spiritual advisor to the king of Orissa, King Prataparudra. Sarvabhauma is India's most famous Mayavadi, or impersonalist, who teaches that God is energy, but without personality and form. The next morning, on this seat, the proud Sarvabhauma expounds his impersonal interpretation of the Vedanta philosophy in order to convert the young sannyasi to his view. For 7 days he continues his discourse without interruption. On the 8th day, Sri Chaitanya replies, "I can understand the meaning of each verse very clearly, but your explanations cover the real meaning." He then explains that the sacred Vedanta scriptures clearly uphold the personal feature of the absolute truth as supreme, that God is a person with unlimited spiritual form. Sri Chaitanya devastates all of Sarvabhauma's arguments and finally reveals his true nature to the bewildered scholar. He transforms himself and then appears in his original form as Krishna. Sarvabhauma becomes overwhelmed by this revelation and instantly surrenders to Sri Chaitanya, whom he recognizes as the Supreme Personality of Godhead incarnate. This 6-armed form of Lord Chaitanya is called Sri Sadbhuj. The upper 2 hands hold the bow and arrow of Lord Ramachandra. The middle 2 hold the flute of Lord Krishna, and the lower 2 hold the danda and water pot of Chaitanya himself. Pilgrims come to visit the home of the famous Sarvabhauma, and they remember these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya as they worship these deities of Radha and Krishna here. After the conversion of Sarvabhauma, a religious, social and cultural revival of unprecedented proportions begins to take place in the state of Orissa. Lord Chaitanya prophesies that the chanting of the holy names will spread worldwide and leaves Puri to expand the preaching. He visits all the major pilgrimage places of South India, the temples of Ranganath, Meenakshi Devi and Rameshwaram, to name a few. He even induces wild animals of the jungle to set aside their natural enmity and dance together. At last, in the year 1513, he returns to Puri to a tumultuous Rath-yatra festival. King Prataparudra personally begins to sweep the path before the deity with a golden broom, a tradition followed even today by his descendants. The Rath-yatra procession ends at the temple of Gundicha, which is surrounded by gardens and lakes, and these appear to Sri Chaitanya like Vrindavan, the spiritual realm of Lord Krishna. With his devotees, Sri Chaitanya reenacts the pastimes of Vrindavan here. Sometimes they enter the lake Indrajumna, where the Lord sports with his associates. At the nearby Alanath temple, Sri Chaitanya prostrates himself before the Vishnu deity, and his body becomes so hot due to his feelings of intense love of God that the stone floor upon which he lays melts, and to this day bears the imprint of his body. This monastery on the western side of the Jagannath temple is constructed by a contemporary associate of Sri Chaitanya, Paramananda Puri. But unfortunately, the water so necessary for the self-sufficiency of the compound is bitter and unusable. Sri Chaitanya prays to Jagannath to bring the sweet water of the Ganges hundreds of miles to the well. Immediately, the water becomes sweet, and Sri Chaitanya proclaims that anyone who drinks this water will certainly develop pure love of Godhead. Naturally, for devout visitors to Puri, stopping here for a drink is mandatory. It was beneath this bokul tree that the famous Saint Haridas continuously chanted 300,000 names of God each day. He was a dear devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and each day Chaitanya would meet him here. Curiously, although the tree's roots are hollow and completely rotted, the tree still survives. Today, devotees of Chaitanya chant beneath it in memory of Haridas. This memorial honors the Namacharya, the spiritual master of the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. At his feet one can see the Hare Krishna mantra written in Bengali script. A shrine built on this spot, known as the Haridas Thakur Samadhi, is one of the favorite places of pilgrimage in all of Puri. Within lies a set of chanting beads, said to have belonged to this revered and humble man. Groups such as this come daily to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in honor of Haridas. Artists in Puri have especially glorified Lord Chaitanya and his associates. Another name for the province of Orissa is Utkal, meaning the place of the highest art. Skilled artisans continue to fashion miniature deities of Lord Jagannath for people to worship in their own homes. In the Mahapatra family, this traditional devotional art has been passed down from father to son for centuries. A particularly vivid example of Orissan devotional art is found in these colorful reliefs decorating this exquisite temple. Here at the Raghuనంdan Library, next to the main gate of Puri's great temple, one can examine centuries-old leaf manuscripts with devotional drawings illustrating the intimate pastimes of Sri Chaitanya. In this drawing, a verse from scripture is integrated into the design. The local artists have developed a distinct style of painting that has become famous among students of Oriental art and are in great demand among Western collectors. This painting shows the miraculous pastime of Lord Chaitanya dancing and chanting simultaneously with many different kirtan groups during the Rath Yatra festival. Pilgrims to Puri are reminded of Lord Chaitanya everywhere, and the beach is no exception. One night, in great spiritual ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya mistakes the ocean for the sacred river Jamuna and jumps in, allowing the waves to carry him away. A fisherman, not unlike one of these, catches his body in a net and brings him to shore. The devotees revive the Lord by loudly chanting the holy names of Krishna in his ear. He has been immersed in a vision of Krishna, sporting with the gopis in the spiritual world. As the years go by, Lord Chaitanya enters into deeper meditation upon the divine pastimes of Krishna and his consort Radha. In this secluded retreat, called the Gambhira, meaning profound, he sometimes dances, sometimes sings, and sometimes becomes unconscious in ecstatic love of God. Enshrined within the Gambhira are wooden peg shoes which he used to wear. Decorating the wall are reliefs of the Lord and his associates. While his devotees sleep outside the main door, Lord Chaitanya remains awake inside, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra all night. In 1534, during his 48th year, Lord Chaitanya decides within himself to wind up his manifest earthly pastimes. He enters the Puri temple for a final audience with his beloved Lord Jagannath, and then returns to the spiritual world. Miraculously, devotees witness his departure from this mortal world at 2 other locations simultaneously. Here at the Tota Gopinath temple, the Lord enters the chamber of the deities, closes the curtain behind him, and vanishes. At the same time, other witnesses describe how he enters into the sea with his arms raised, chanting Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya and Puri have become inseparable in the minds of the city's inhabitants, who daily enter temples such as this to worship him or offer homage to his deity within their own simple dwellings. Lord Chaitanya is worshipped as the combined form of Lord Krishna and his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani. In Jagannath Puri and throughout India, Lord Chaitanya is worshipped as the golden avatar. But what of Chaitanya's prophecy that his movement will eventually spread to every town and village in the world? Until the late 19th century, the pastimes, teaching and miracles of Lord Chaitanya are little known outside of India. However, in 1896, this book introduces him to the English-speaking world. Appropriately, it is written by an important resident of Puri, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. These buildings are part of Bhaktivinoda's original household. He is the manager of the Puri temple, an influential district magistrate and an acharya, a great spiritual teacher who vigorously preaches the message of Sri Chaitanya. This temple in Puri marks the birth site of the next great acharya, Bhaktivinoda's son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He expands his father's mission by writing profusely about Lord Chaitanya's teachings, and establishes many temples in Puri and all over India to propagate the process of Harinam Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names of God. He attracts many disciples, among them A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In 1965, after a lifetime of preparation, Srila Prabhupada comes to America, and in a space of a few short years successfully transplants Lord Chaitanya's movement to the West, and along with it, he brings Jagannath Puri as well. The deity of Lord Jagannath is worshipped in every one of the Hare Krishna movement's temples around the world. And every year, the great Rath Yatra festival of Jagannath Puri is reenacted in the major cities of North America, in the great capitals of Europe, in South America, Africa, and Australia, where millions of people attend the same sacred ceremony that has attracted pilgrims to Puri for thousands of years. The holy places such as Jerusalem, Mecca, and Jagannath Puri have made an enormous contribution to the world. They keep alive the profound lessons of the world's greatest spiritual teachers, and for this reason we hold them sacred. To this day, the spirit of Lord Chaitanya lives on in Puri, and for the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, Puri is forever in their hearts.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Balam Ishaha Krishnam Shangopangastro Parshadam Jagaisham Kirtana Prayurjo Janti Ishu Medhasa.
From high in the snowy Himalayas, the sacred river Ganges flows across the plains of India for 1,600 miles before it reaches Mayapur in Navadvip, West Bengal. In this holy land is a temple that marks the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya. Today, pilgrims journey to Mayapur annually to celebrate the anniversary of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. They know of Lord Chaitanya as the boy genius who casually defeated the greatest scholars, the young revolutionary who organized India's first civil disobedience movement, the social reformer who transcended the rigid Hindu caste system, the supreme renouncer to whom common people, religious leaders, and even kings bowed. And above all, they know of Sri Chaitanya as the perfect devotee who blessed the world with Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy names of God. Here at his birthplace, they worship Sri Chaitanya on the lap of his mother, Sachi Devi. Century Europe. The Renaissance was turning people's vision from God to man, from religion to humanism, from a search for the self to a search for unexplored continents. But in India, Sri Chaitanya and his associates were to shift people's vision back to God, and make God's love accessible to everyone. Their lives would exemplify Krishna's immortal teachings in Bhagavad Gita. Theirs was a renaissance in bhakti, devotion to Lord Krishna. In the year 1202, Navadvip was the first city in Bengal to be captured by Muslim conquerors. Despite foreign rule, Navadvip's people, masters at their occupations, were blessed with wealth and happiness. Navadvip's fame as a center of learning attracted students and erudite teachers from various countries. But pride in scholarship and material opulence brought forgetfulness of spiritual culture. Seeing the people of the world overcome by materialism, the powerful sage Advaita Acharya prayed for the Supreme Lord to descend and create a rebirth of spiritual devotion. On the evening of February 18th, 1486, there was an eclipse of the full moon over India. Millions of Hindus stood waist deep in the holy rivers, jubilantly chanting the holy names of God. At this auspicious time, Sri Chaitanya was born. A learned astrologer studied the baby's horoscope and saw all the symptoms of Lord Krishna. He declared,
Nimai is destined to make the whole world peaceful.
The child was called Nimai because he was born under a neem tree. Visitors noticed that Nimai's features strikingly resembled those of Lord Krishna. When the beautiful infant cried, only the loud chanting of Krishna and Hari would make him stop. By baby tricks, Sri Chaitanya had begun his mission. As a boy, he soon surpassed all the other students and became known as a Pandit or scholar. At 16, Nimai Pandit opened his own school and attracted many pupils. Although the people considered him an ordinary mortal, he was undoubtedly their greatest teacher in all branches of knowledge. Both Hindus and Muslims loved him. By this time, Nimai was a householder. He and Lakshmi Devi had been attracted to each other from childhood and were married with great pomp and merriment. One day, Keshava Kashmiri, a proud and brilliant scholar who was undefeated in debate, came to Navadvip. Nimai met him on the bank of the Ganges and easily defeated him. That night in a dream, Saraswati, the goddess of learning, told Keshava Kashmiri,
My dear Keshava, Nimai is the ultimate source of all your learning. He is your supreme Lord, Sri Krishna himself.
The next day, Keshava humbly surrendered to Nimai and became his follower. Nimai Pandit's victory became a household topic. The year 1508 marked a turning point in Nimai Pandit's life. On a pilgrimage to Gaya, he met a great spiritual master named Ishwara Puri and received spiritual initiation from him. Ishwara Puri told Nimai,
If you want to make spiritual progress, simply chant Hare Krishna. There is no religious method more sublime in this age than Sankirtan, or glorifying God by chanting his holy names.
Nimai began chanting and returned to Bengal full of ecstatic love for Krishna. People were astonished at the change in him. From this point on, he who had been supreme among all logicians and debaters would now give himself fully to popularizing Sankirtan. He would show people how to become a devotee of Krishna. In this house, every night for a year, Nimai led his associates in Sankirtan: Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas Thakur. Nimai revealed to his followers that he was the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, the source of all incarnations. Thus, all the devotees became fully confident that Nimai was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One of Nimai's associates was Haridas Thakur. Imbued with love of God, Haridas chanted Hare Krishna with implicit faith and purity throughout the day and night. But he was rejected by caste-conscious Hindus because of his Muslim birth. Nimai, however, recognized Haridas as an exalted devotee. Another close associate of Nimai was Nityananda Prabhu. Every day, Nityananda and Haridas went from house to house, asking everyone they met to chant the holy name of the Lord. One day, they approached Jagai and Madhai, two drunken brothers. The enraged Madhai attacked Nityananda with a broken pot. Nimai rushed to the spot and invoked his divine weapon to kill Jagai and Madhai. But Nityananda implored Nimai to extend his mercy. The brothers, moved by Nityananda's compassion, surrendered at Nimai's feet and gave up their sinful ways. The spiritual ecstasy of chanting could no longer be contained. It burst forth in the minds and hearts of the people of Navadvip. Some Muslims and even Brahmins were envious, however. They complained to Chand Qazi, the Muslim magistrate, and one night the Qazi raided a devotee's home, angrily broke a drum and declared,
Next time someone chants, I will confiscate all his property.
Nimai's response was bold and fearless. He quickly mobilized 100,000 people and led them in India's first civil disobedience movement. They soon reached the home of the Qazi, who only then realized the popularity of young Nimai's Sankirtan movement. After an extensive philosophical discussion, the Qazi was so moved by the truth and beauty of Nimai's teachings that he pledged,
Neither I nor any of my descendants will ever again hinder this Sankirtan movement.
Nimai's followers multiplied. His weapon was Sankirtan, and his miracle to turn materialists into pure spiritualists. Yet he occasionally displayed miracles of another type. One night, the son of Srivas Thakur died. Nimai restored the dead body to life. Why are you leaving us? He asked the boy.
I lived as long as I was destined. I am your eternal servant, a dependent living being. I must act according to your desire.
Hearing this, everyone present became transcendently enlightened. Yet there were those who disdained the Sankirtan movement, thinking Nimai an ordinary man. To capture these critics in his network of love of God, Nimai severed his connection with family and home. In January 1510, Nimai accepted sannyas, the highest spiritual order, renouncing the world and humbly devoting his life to the service of Krishna. Because the order of sannyas was revered by the whole society, Nimai could then spread his movement more effectively. His childhood name was set aside, and he became known as Sri Chaitanya. The Lord's mother was heart-struck by her son's renunciation. He consoled her by agreeing to make his headquarters at nearby Jagannath Puri, the holy city in Orissa on the Bay of Bengal. With 4 others, Sri Chaitanya walked along the banks of the Ganges toward Puri, stopping on the way to visit temples and hear about the pastimes of Lord Krishna and his devotees. Finally, they came to Puri. On seeing the temple of Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya immediately became ecstatic, and when he entered the temple, he was so overwhelmed with love of God that he fainted. Still unconscious, he was carried here, the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, a renowned scholar and logician of Puri. Here, the Lord regained consciousness and met Sarvabhauma for the first time. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had thousands of followers and was the personal advisor to the king of Orissa. Yet, after 1 week of discussions, the elderly Sarvabhauma realized that the absolute truth is not impersonal, but is Krishna himself. He became an ardent disciple of the 24-year-old Sri Chaitanya. The whole city was amazed. Thousands of people began to follow Sri Chaitanya, including the king himself. But the Lord did not stay to enjoy his fame. He left Jagannath Puri to propagate the chanting of Hare Krishna. He embarked on a 2-year, 4,000-mile walking pilgrimage to the holy places of South India. In one village, a devotee named Vasudeva, who was suffering from leprosy, went to see Sri Chaitanya. But Vasudeva arrived too late. Hopelessly disappointed, he fell unconscious. Suddenly, Sri Chaitanya returned and embraced Vasudeva, curing his leprosy. The Lord visited the Jayata temple and offered his respectful obeisances on seeing the half-man, half-lion deity of Lord Nishringa in the temple. When Sri Chaitanya was chanting near the Godavari River, Ramananda Roy, the governor of Madras and a highly advanced devotee of Krishna, came there. Sri Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy spent many hours discussing Lord Krishna's pastimes. Finally, Sri Chaitanya revealed himself as the combined form of the Supreme Person, Lord Krishna, and his beloved consort, Radharani. Arriving at Shiva Kanchi, Lord Chaitanya visited the deity of Lord Shiva in a very old temple. By his influence, he converted all the devotees of Lord Shiva into devotees of Lord Krishna. Nearby, the Lord visited the holy place known as Vishnu Kanchi and performed kirtan in ecstasy. 500 feet up in the hills at Pakshi Tirtha, Sri Chaitanya visited another temple of Lord Shiva. It is said that 2 birds have been going to this temple daily to receive food from the temple priest since time immemorial. Sri Ranga Temple, surrounded by 7 walls, is the largest in India. There, beneath a golden dome, the 18-foot black deity of Sri Ranganath reclines behind a deity of Lord Vishnu. Sri Chaitanya stayed here in Sri Ranga for the 4 months of the rainy season. Daily, many people used to come to see him and were freed from the distress of material life. In Madurai, Sri Chaitanya visited the Meenakshi Devi temple, built in honor of Lord Shiva's wife. This temple is known as a great architectural achievement. The Lord saw the Malaya Parvata mountain range at Cape Comorin, the southernmost tip of India. Then he headed north, back to Puri. On the way, he became ecstatic when he reached the Adi Keshava temple, where a small deity circumambulates the area every day. In this temple, Sri Chaitanya discovered a chapter of the Brahma Samhita, an important scripture that had long been lost. The Lord copied it and took it with him, considering it a most valuable jewel. The Lord arrived at Udupi, where Madhvacharya, the great devotee and spiritual preceptor, was born and lived. When the Lord saw Madhvacharya's deity of Lord Krishna, he became mad with ecstasy. As the Lord passed through towns and villages, many people came to see him. He blessed them and asked them all to chant Hare Krishna. These people, now empowered devotees, returned to their homes and inspired others to chant. Krishna himself, in the guise of a devotee, had begun to flood the world with an ocean of love for Sri Krishna. The world would never be the same.
In 1512, Sri Chaitanya returned to Puri while preparations were underway for Ratha Yatra, the awesome and magnificent chariot parade of Lord Jagannath. Even today, as for the past 2,000 years, local people construct and decorate new chariots for the yearly parade. The deity of Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, leaves the temple to ride on his chariot and extend his mercy to everyone. Accompanying Jagannath on similar chariots are his elder brother Balaram and his sister Subhadra. Yearly, hundreds of Sri Chaitanya's followers from Bengal journeyed to Puri to join him in Ratha Yatra. Sri Chaitanya organized his devotees into 7 groups of chanters and placed them around the huge chariots. Even Jagannath himself was astonished by the dancing of Sri Chaitanya. He brought his chariot to a standstill to watch with unblinking eyes. Jagannath is Krishna, and this celebration commemorates the time when Krishna was led from the unsurpassed majesty of his kingdom to the rural village of Vrindavan, where he had passed his childhood. The devotees emotionally carried Krishna back to Vrindavan by the intensity and purity of their love for him. Vrindavan, where pure love for Krishna fills every heart. Sri Chaitanya had wanted to come here for years, and finally, early one autumn morning, he left Puri and headed west toward the land of Krishna. On the way, he passed through the forest of Jarikanda. Attracted by the Lord's deep love of Krishna, the wild animals gave up their old enmities and began to chant with him. The Lord had been absorbed in ecstatic love at Jagannath Puri, but that love increased 100,000 times as he wandered in the Vrindavan forest where Krishna had tended his cows. Sri Chaitanya is Krishna himself, and he recognized his old friends, the animals, trees, and creepers of Vrindavan. They, in turn, were jubilant to see their Lord again. Each morning, Lord Chaitanya sat alone beneath this tamarind tree and relished the joy of chanting Hare Krishna. In the afternoons, he explained the importance of chanting to his many visitors. The Lord's footprints now memorialize the spot. Lord Chaitanya asked 2 of his closest associates, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, to live in Vrindavan, excavate the lost holy places of Krishna's pastimes, and write books about Krishna consciousness. Rupa and Sanatan, along with 4 other inspired and scholarly Goswamis, contributed the largest and most consistent body of spiritual literature known in the world. They established temples and taught Krishna consciousness by their exemplary lives. For 6 years, Lord Chaitanya had traveled extensively in India. Now 30 years old, he would spend the rest of his days with his associates in Jagannath Puri. Now elderly, Haridas Thakur had moved from Navadvip to a small cottage near the Jagannath temple in Puri. Because he had been born an outcast, Haridas was not allowed in the temple. But Sri Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, visited Haridas every day. One day, the Lord found Haridas ill. Haridas said,
"My Lord, I think you will soon end your pastimes in this material world. Before that time comes, kindly let my body fall down in your presence."
A few days later, when the Lord came to visit, Haridas fixed his eyes on the Lord's face, chanted Shri Krishna Chaitanya, and gave up his earthly life to return home to the spiritual world. Out of love for this unparalleled devotee, Shri Chaitanya took Haridas's dead body and began to dance, while the entire city chanted Hare Krishna. To honor Haridas's passing, the Lord collected sanctified food and distributed generous helpings to all the devotees, saying, "All glories to Haridas Thakur, who attained perfection by chanting the holy name of the Lord." Sri Chaitanya stayed in Puri for 18 years. Each day he would chant and dance in the temple and instruct the countless people who came to him. At night he stayed in this room, called Gambira, where his sandals and water pot are enshrined today. Overwhelmed by the glorious sweetness of ecstatic love for Krishna, he experienced inconceivable transcendental emotions. One night, Sri Chaitanya happily wandered in a garden that resembled Vrindavan. Suddenly, he saw Lord Krishna. He began running toward Krishna, but Krishna smiled and disappeared. Another night, the devotees found Sri Chaitanya lying near the Jagannath temple. The Lord was unconscious in the ecstasy of sadness, feeling separation from Krishna. The year 1534. One day, devotees saw Sri Chaitanya, now 48, enter a temple of Krishna. He never came out. He had amalgamated himself with the deity of Krishna on the altar. Thus, the Lord concluded his pastimes on earth and returned to his eternal abode in the spiritual world. The immortal culture of Krishna consciousness, as presented by Sri Chaitanya, has been passed from one generation to the next through a succession of great realized teachers, including His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada wrote more than 60 books on Lord Chaitanya and Krishna consciousness. He founded schools, temples, and farming communities on 6 continents. He installed deities of the Supreme Lord throughout the world, and he inaugurated the chariot parade and distribution of sanctified food worldwide. It was Srila Prabhupada who carried Sri Chaitanya's storehouse of love of God beyond the shores of India and began to fulfill Sri Chaitanya's prediction, "One day my names will be chanted in every town and village in the world." In 1984, Srila Prabhupada's disciples began an 18-month walking pilgrimage, retracing Lord Chaitanya's route throughout India, reminding millions of his great spiritual message. Although Lord Chaitanya's followers wrote hundreds of books, the Lord himself left only 8 verses. "My dear Lord Krishna," he prayed, "let there be all victory for the chanting of your holy names, which cleanses the heart and stops the miseries of material existence. They are the prime benediction for all living entities, the life of all transcendental knowledge, and they enable one to taste full nectar at every step." Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be filled with tears of love as I chant your holy names? Because of separation from you, I consider a moment like a great millennium. You may embrace me tightly or make me broken-hearted by not being visible to me. You are completely free to do anything and everything. but you are my worshipable Lord, unconditionally.
Namah Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prem Pradate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Krishna Prem Pradate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne
Dham is a holy place. Millions of pilgrims throng this area of northeast India every year. People come here to live, offer their prayers, chant, and meditate. For centuries, these few hundred square miles of land have been worshipped as sacred. Supply a constant flow of water, and the temples are always filled with songs and offerings to God. To a Westerner newly arrived, the sudden peacefulness is a startling change from the world of pollution, crime, and anxiety. But however beautiful and tranquil the scenery, you soon discover that a sacred place is actually made holy by the presence of the saintly people who have resided there in the past and who are living there in the present. Only a great person can transform a material place into a spiritual realm. And you can't be in Mayapur for more than a few moments before hearing the name of the great personality who first made it so famous, Sri Chaitanya. Considered to be an incarnation of God himself, Sri Chaitanya launched a vigorous religious movement in the 16th century that spread rapidly throughout all of India. Specifically, Sri Chaitanya recommended the chanting of the great mantra for deliverance. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya revived this method of chanting God's name to reawaken a person's dormant love of God. He emphasized the point that this chanting is the essential teaching of the more than 5,000-year-old Vedic literatures. And he predicted that this form of meditation on God would eventually spread to every town and village in the world. This prediction has been fulfilled by the Hare Krishna movement, which was brought to the West by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Omniscient. He knows everything. But the living being, does not know actually what is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
It is interesting that this Krishna consciousness has been considered by some to be a new religious cult. But there can be no doubt, after visiting Sridham Mayapur, that this spiritual path has been alive for thousands of years. Previously unknown to the West, an unbroken chain of acharyas, or great spiritual teachers, have handed down the ancient secrets of self-realization from master to disciple throughout the ages. Fulfilling Lord Chaitanya's prophecy that Krishna consciousness would spread to every corner of the world, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, appointed 11 of his most dedicated disciples to continue the disciplic succession. For the first time, spiritual masters born outside the subcontinent of India are carrying on this great tradition. And it was this 19th century Acharya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who had the vision of a great spiritual city which would rise up from the land and attract the entire world to the activities and philosophy of Sri Chaitanya. Standing on the balcony of this house, Srila Bhaktivinoda looked across the river Jalangi toward the birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and predicted that one day there would be a shining city filled with devotees of Lord Chaitanya from all over the world. He wrote, "If it is your heart's desire to cross over the ocean of material life, and if your mind's great pleasure is in tasting the nectar of the holy name, and if your soul thirsts to sport in the ocean of loving emotions of the Lord, then you should immediately make your home in the transcendental village of Sri Mayapur." The atmosphere of Sri Mayapur is made even more spiritual by the sacred river Ganges, which winds its way through every part of this land. Crossing the sacred Ganges, a modern pilgrim feels taken back in time as the boatmen maneuver their pansis across the water, just as they have done for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Sri Chaitanya himself must have crossed this river innumerable times on a boat just like this, with his devotees chanting all around him. Arriving in the nearby town of Navadvip, reminders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings are seen and heard everywhere. Everyone greets each other with traditional folded hands, pranams, and the by now familiar Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, which means chant the names of Krishna, or God. Everyone here seems to find a mutual benefit in chanting these names of God. Of course, there are innumerable names for God in India as everywhere else, and all of them are considered equally good by the followers of Sri Chaitanya. But it is the 16 words, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that are described in the Vedic scriptures as the most effective means for attaining spiritual perfection in this age. They call it the age of Kali, an age in which people quarrel even over trifling things. And therefore, Sri Chaitanya recommended that a common platform could be found in Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. He urged that people hold meetings to glorify the Lord in their respective languages, accompanying their chanting with melodious music and dancing. He assured his followers that practice of this Sankirtan would bring spiritual perfection without any of the efforts of undergoing rigid methods of yoga or asceticism. Sri Chaitanya made this simple process available to everyone without restriction, regardless of birth or social standing. Because of his attack on the caste system, Sri Chaitanya's revolutionary movement met with resistance from the incumbent priests, who enlisted the aid of the government itself in repressing the Sankirtan movement. They disrupted meetings, smashed musical instruments, and forbade the congregational chanting. Undaunted, Sri Chaitanya rallied his followers in a midnight procession to the house of the Chand Qazi, who was the local magistrate of the district. The Qazi was forced to hear the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya, and by the great saint's diplomacy, logic, and spiritual purity, the Qazi not only allowed the Sankirtan movement to continue, but he himself became one of Chaitanya's disciples.
So this holy place is where the Chand Qazi's house was. It is a raised portion behind here, where now the present village market is being held. This is the house of the Chand Qazi, is the foundation on which this marketplace is now founded. And when he left his body, the Lord Chaitanya, who at that time he was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So when his body was laid down at this place, then automatically, immediately from his body came out 2 trees. And Lord Chaitanya's nickname was Nimai, because he was born under a neem tree. Then from this place came 2 trees from his body, a neem tree and a champak tree. And this is to symbolize that the Chand Qazi is eternally united in pure loving devotion with Sri Gaur Sundara Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Sri Chaitanya showed that this is not a dry philosophy, but one of great life, of chanting, dancing, feasting, and serving in innumerable ways. And the key to Sri Chaitanya's philosophy is hearing. Seeing through sound is the most profound spiritual experience for anyone who comes to Sri Ram Mayapur. Everywhere and at all times, the air is filled with spiritual sound vibrations. Almost every temple here has its own 24-hour-a-day congregational chanting, and one can hear these sounds traveling across the fields from every direction. And one can always find a place where spiritual philosophy is being spoken, either in small groups or large gatherings. As devotees travel from one pilgrimage site to another, they chant, listen, and share spiritual realizations with each other. There can be no other place like Mayapur in the world. It is a unique spiritual land where every blade of grass seems to be an invitation to experience genuine spiritual life. A visitor can come here with many different ideas about spiritual life, but he cannot leave here without a taste of real spiritual nectar.
I really love it here. It's nice. I wasn't expecting such an atmosphere here, as a matter of fact, but it's really nice, you know. It took me really by surprise.
It's such nice and pure spiritual atmosphere that we don't feel like going, but we are not that lucky to be here forever.
It's a heavenly place.
This trip has been such a wonderful experience for me that I couldn't really describe it completely for you.
Sri Ram Mayapur is just like actually the spiritual world, because the atmosphere is very much surcharged with transcendental bliss and knowledge.
And every year of this time, I must come here.
It's been really, really nice.
And everyone is so enthused and happy. I mean, even the residents of Mayapur who've been living here all their life, they have never seen such ecstatic devotees from all over the world before. And they're very happy, and they want the devotees to come back again and again and again.
Srila Prabhupada recommended that everyone come to Mayapur. He wanted the entire world to know about this unique spiritual center. and he wanted everyone to come here to taste the sweetness of real spiritual life. In fact, he instructed his disciples to construct a great spiritual city on this site, just as Srila Bhaktivinoda had envisioned over a century ago. Sri Mayapur Chandrodaya is like the moon, which gradually grows until full. Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself said, "In the matter of staying here, one should not think of it as a material place, or disbelieve its glories, thinking it to be an ordinary place. Nothing in Mayapur Dham is material but the consciousness of the conditioned souls who think it so. It is eternally manifest as the abode of the holy name. Therefore, we humbly request everyone to cast aside all their mundane conceptions, raise their arms, and sing."
Kann ich dir irgendwie helfen?
Ich mache das schon alleine.
Ich wollte Ihnen nicht zu nahe treten, Entschuldigung.
Kannst du sagen, Anna.
Ich bin Mohsen.
Oh, oh. Ey, hol mal einen Lappen.
Lappen ist unterwegs.
Als Anna den Wagen beiseite hob, Mohsen hochnahm und ihn wegbrachte, da dachte Mohsen, er sei zu Hause angekommen. Er vergaß seine Schmerzen und gab sich ganz dem Gefühl wohliger Geborgenheit hin.
Ein Unfall? Was ist mit dem Wagen?
Nichts ist mit dem Wagen. Ich habe mir den Fuß gequetscht.
Warte mal. Mohsen John Chichole. Mein armer Junge, tut es sehr weh?
Nein, nein. Aber ich muss noch ein paar Tage hier in Oberniederwalde bleiben.
Was ist mit dem Schafe? Hast du dem Schafe?
Die Verbindung ist schlecht. Ich höre nichts mehr. Ich melde mich nochmal.
Hallo? Hallo?
Chichole.
Hat er aufgelegt? Er hat aufgelegt! Er ist nicht mehr mein Sohn. Er ist nicht mehr mein Sohn. Ich habe auf der Universität 5 Fächer studiert.
5 Fächer?
3, ich habe 3. 4 Fächer habe ich studiert. Unsere ganze Familie ist bis oben hin voll mit Helden. Wir haben nur Helden. Wir haben Ingenieure, wir haben Politiker, wir haben Wissenschaftler. Und er kann nicht mal geradeaus fahren.
Mann, Uwe, was machst denn du hier?
Hi, Baby. Ich habe gehört, der Fremde hat irgendwie einen Unfall gehabt. Sitzt jetzt beim Arzt rum. Das Auto ist ihm auf den Fuß gefallen.
Uwe, erzähle jemandem, den es interessiert, ja? Aber lass mich hier in Ruhe meinen Job machen.
Ja, ist schon klar. Sag mal, findest du das nicht eigentlich merkwürdig, dass der Wagenheber so plötzlich umfällt? Ist ja noch nie passiert.
Was willst du mir eigentlich sagen, hä?
Mäuschen, hast du eine Versicherung?
Haha, nein! Die wirst du aber brauchen bei dem Typen.
Hau ab! Jetzt! Los! Scheiße! Anna, wegen der Versicherung. Das ist zwar in meiner Werkstatt passiert, aber das war nicht meine Schuld.
Anna? Anna? Möchtest du dich setzen?
Du strickst.
Ja, ich stricke. Für mich ist das so eine Art Tagebuch.
Ist ja ganz schön schlampig geworden.
Jetzt, wo der Phase hatte ich gerade Ärger mit meinem Vater.
Du hast oft Ärger mit deinem Vater. Ja, aber schau dir das Stück mal an.
Das Schönste, was ich je gestrickt habe. Das war direkt, nachdem ich dich getroffen habe.
Sag mal, willst du mich verarschen? Ich möchte jetzt gerne noch eine Kleinigkeit essen. Kommst du mit?
Und du isst wirklich nie Fleisch?
Früher schon, jetzt nicht mehr. Blut und Tod, das finde ich einfach nicht gut.
Ich auch nicht. Ich meine das mit dem Fleisch.
Überhaupt finde ich Schlachten etwas Grausames. Das ist einfach schrecklich. Was treibt dich eigentlich hierher?
Das ist so eine Art Geschäftsreise. Ich mache was mit Tieren.
Und zwar?
Schafe. Hauptsächlich. Also, wenn ich Schafe sage, dann meine ich eigentlich
Wolle.
Wolle. Ja, genau. Wolle. Natürlich ist es wichtig, dass die Menschen ehrlich zueinander sind. Wenn allerdings der Mund ein wenig flunkert, während das Herz von Liebe singt, dann ist das doch nicht wirklich unehrlich, oder? Ich bin sozusagen in der Textilbranche. Mein Vater auch. Der ist mein Chef. Familienbetrieb.
Und wo musst du jetzt hin?
Nach Polen. Da habe ich Schafe bestellt. Schafe mit Wolle. Aber da kann ich jetzt nicht hinfahren.
Ich fahre dich. Ich meine, ist ja immerhin in meiner Werkstatt passiert. Aber dann sind wir quitt, ja?
Danke.
Hier, Mai Ling aus Nong Khai, 25 Jahre ohne Schulbildung.
Was meinst du? Wie lange braucht ihr, um sich hier einzugewöhnen, hä?
Die Haare sind doch nicht echt.
Komm.
Die hat Expander drin. Oh, gesteckte Haare sehen so aus. Ich muss zu meinen Eltern, die sollen die Mäuse füttern. Willst du vielleicht einen Tee oder so?
Echt? Nee, nee, ist okay.
Na komm.
Träume ich jetzt hier oder was? Schleppen die Kanaken jetzt die Beute ab?
Wer will denn schon die Maschine da? Was? Oh. Entschuldige.
Alter Mann, Uwe und Anna, die waren doch mal so.
Papa? Was ist los denn? Wir müssen was erledigen. Könnt ihr euch um die Mäuse kümmern?
Hm?
Was hat das zu bedeuten?
Ich habe nichts gegen Ausländer. Das sage ich ganz deutlich. Wirklich. Nicht, dass hier ein falscher Eindruck entsteht.
Man sollte immer freundlich sein, das ist ganz klar. Aber wenn man zu freundlich ist, dann missverstehen die das. Und dann holen die gleich die ganze Sippe nach und dann haben wir hier Kleinasien. Hm?
Vom Terrorismus ganz zu schweigen. Hm?
Wenigstens ist kein Wessi.
Hm.
Freut mich, Sie kennenzulernen.
Wo kommst du denn her?
Gebürtig aus dem Iran.
Mosen muss nach Polen. Ich fahre ihn hin.
Was willst du denn mit dem in Polen? Hm?
Der kann nicht alleine.
Ah ja.
Und übrigens, er arbeitet in der Textilbranche.
Textil?
Ich importiere Wolle.
Wolle. Und was haben wir damit zu tun? Hm? Sie kommen wegen unserer ganz speziellen Kompetenz, ja? Bitte?
Ich glaube, sein Vater hat ihn geschickt.
Ah?
Was ist denn mit seinem Vater?
Er ist auch in der Textilbranche.
Hm?
Im Iran.
Also streng genommen...
Hallo?
Hallo?
Andere Kulturen und so, die haben mich schon immer interessiert. Hm? Jetzt zum Beispiel Winnetou. Hm?
Fremde Kulturen, schön und gut, aber die gehören in fremde Länder.
Ich sage immer, wir sind da alle Menschen. Ne? Wir haben da alle rotes Blut in den Adern und Gefühle wie Freude, Liebe und Trauer und so. Sind bei uns allen gleich. Ne? Oder? Ist doch so. Ne?
Warum hast du nicht gleich von deinen Plänen erzählt?
Welche Pläne?
Hallo?
Dein Haar. Als wäre es eine Kappe aus purem Gold.
Quatsch.
Herr St. Jan, das alles für 4,95. Das wird Mosen bestimmt imponieren.
Nächste Vokabel. Herzlich willkommen.
Danke. Was riecht denn hier so gut?
Herzliches Essen.
Hm?
Probier mal. Komm. Das habe ich alles selber gemacht.
Herzlich willkommen.
Was weiß ich, Alaikum hier oder Salami Alaikum. Ne?
Gadamatum B. Sheshmam.
Ach Quatsch, das ist doch viel zu lang, Mensch. Gib mal her. Hier. Das habe ich ja gesagt.
Hast du nicht? Wörtlich übersetzt heißt das so viel wie steigen Sie mir auf die Augen.
Lecker. Ja? Wäre gut, oder?
Ja, ja. Ja.
Steigen Sie mir auf die Augen.
Hat man, ne? Ja. Poetisch irgendwie, ne?
Ich find's auch poetisch.
Und für Danke sagen die, ich bin ihr Opfer. Und für herzliches Beileid, meine Leber wurde gegrillt. Die sind doch nicht ganz sauber im Kopf, oder?
حرف اینجاست تیم میزنی توی سرش الان که نیست دل برش تنگ شده
بابا میخوام جلوشو بگیرم که خرابکاری نکنه.
ما واقعا هم این چیزا رو لازم داریم
آره معلومه. ما داریم میریم DDR.
Hallo. Mohsen.
Mein Vater wird staunen. Der glaubt nämlich nicht, dass es diese Schafe gibt. Sind Sie sicher, dass das die richtigen sind?
Schickenschlachter. Wo sind denn Musterschafski? Musterschafski.
Schickenschlachter.
Wie kriege ich denn jetzt in mein Auto rein?
Nix Deutsch. Nix Deutsch.
Worauf wartest du?
Lass mich doch mal. Lass uns doch mal.
تو هستی دنیای منو بدون تو کم میارم تو هستی رویای منو پیشم باشی غم ندارم میخوام که باورت بشه مال تو هم تا پای جون
Da kommen auf einmal all die Tiere in die Wüste, zu denen der Prinz jemals nett war. Das sind ziemlich viele, denn der Prinz hatte ja, wie gesagt, ein sehr großes Herz. Und jedes Tier hatte eine Blume dabei. Eine Rose, eine Lilie, eine Nelke. Und schon bald hatten sie die Wüste in einen paradiesischen Garten verwandelt. Endlich wacht die Prinzessin auf, verliebt sich unsterblich in den Prinzen und alle sind glücklich.
Dein Vater hat dir jeden Abend solche Märchen erzählt, ja?
Ja.
Meiner hat mir nur das Trainingsprogramm vorgelesen.
Echt? Was für ein Training?
Anna Bergheim war schon immer größer und schwerer als andere Mädchen. Und das war nicht immer einfach für sie. Aber sie lernte damit umzugehen. Sie wurde das größte Kugelstoßtalent der Region. Ihr Trainer hatte Großes mit ihr vor und wollte sie für Olympia aufbauen. Sie trainierten hart, Tag für Tag. Die Vitaminpräparate, die er Anna trainingsbegleitend verschrieb, waren absolut harmlos, sagte er. Und Anna schenkte ihrem Trainer nicht nur ihr volles Vertrauen, sondern auch ihr Herz, an dem er allerdings deutlich weniger Interesse hatte als an ihren Erfolgen. die Mittel ihre Wirkung. Anna brach Rekorde und holte einen Titel nach dem anderen. Sie war der ganze Stolz ihres Vaters und des ganzen Dorfes.
Eine Tochter. Anna.
Dann fiel die Mauer. Anna musste vor eine Dopingkommission und fiel in Ungnade. In ihrer Verzweiflung klammerte sie sich an den Traum der großen Liebe. Doch ihr Trainer zog es vor, mit einer zierlichen Turnlehrerin in den Westen zu ziehen. Anna blieb zurück und beschloss, einen ganz neuen Weg zu gehen.
Und du hast nie wieder eine Kugel geworfen? Ich habe keinen Bock, in der Vergangenheit zu leben. So wie all die anderen hier.
Wollen Sie die nach Deutschland einführen?
Ja?
Haben Sie eine Einfuhr-Sonder...